Hey everyone, it is Wednesday and we are talking mortgages with Matt, the mortgage guy. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well.
Excellent. So, hey, one of the things I want to talk about is a lot of people that follow my channel, and I'm sure yours as well, they're not your traditional W-2 employee, right? There may be a 1099 or maybe they're a small business. So let's talk about the self-employed individual today who's trying to get either an owner-occupied loan or a mortgage loan. What's going on in that market? Some of them are having challenges.
Right. And it's changed in 2020. I'm hoping for a little bit of retractment in some of the guidelines that were put in place in 2021, but I don't know when that's going to happen, just like we don't know what's really happening with small business. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I prefer to be honest and straightforward with people because it's in their best interest. And I see a lot of folks in my industry that who knows what the intention is, but they give people false hope, and ultimately it leads to lost money from appraisals and deposits and things. Where if you would have been more realistic with them up front, you would have said, hey, it might not be in the cards for you to buy right now, and here's why. Yeah. And so happy to talk about the changes that took place in June, how that's affecting self-employed borrowers, what I think about self-employed borrowers going forward, and the advice that I'm giving them, even if it's not popular or what they want to hear. It's the honest advice, in my opinion.
Well, let's do it. Let's give Matt's opinion. A self-employed borrower post June. What would you tell him? Your phone rings. Hey, I'm Matt. I'll
right.
be Mike, and I called you, and just pretend I just called you, and we're having a conversation.
Yeah, great to hear from you, Mike, and I'm glad that you're getting back to work. Sorry that you were essentially shut down for 3 or 4 months. I know you wanted to work, but currently the way that lenders are looking at self-employed borrowers, they're making it kind of tough, Mike. I'm not gonna lie. And there's your 18 and 19 taxes that reflect a couple great years.
Yeah.
And in 2020, I know you had some time off, so tell me a little bit about this year's P&L. How's that going to look?
Yeah, so my P&L is going to be a hit, as you would expect, right? Lost 3 months, had a lot more expenses because I had to do this or that because of this or that regulation. So my costs are up and my revenues are down. So
right.
not a good year.
Right. And unfortunately, in years past, before guidelines changed on June 11th for self-employed borrowers, we could look at the last couple years of taxes and take an average and just say that you were making about $7,000 a month in that business, and we can use it. What they want now for self-employed borrowers is a profit and loss statement along with a couple months of business bank statements. And I can tell you, Mike, from dealing with a bunch of different lenders who are not being super tight, they're wanting to write loans, that if the profit and loss doesn't show that we're doing as well as last year or better, and the business bank statements also don't match what the profit and loss is saying as far as monthly revenue goes, they're just gonna cut your income drastically or not give you any at all. And
yeah,
and that's the hard truth of it. I hope you get back to work, and I hope that 2020 ends in a bang, and the taxes that get filed are at least.
Well, here's the problem, folks. California just shut down again. So whoever this fictitious small business is not only lost 3 months in the beginning of the year, but are losing 2 months now or whatever it is. So in reality, if you're a small business that was truly shut down, you're probably not getting a loan now. However,
right.
There are some small businesses, because they just happen to be essential, that are doing better than last year. If that is your business, I'm assuming a loan's no problem.
Right. And they're making you jump through more hoops. They're requiring the documentation, but if your business is doing well, then you're completely fine. And so I've done plenty of loans for self-employed borrowers this year. I've also, unfortunately, had some that I've had to say, let's revisit it next year. Let's look at it next year, because they're not only wanting you to state that business hasn't declined, but they're making you prove it. And if that bank statement, business bank statements, and the P&L doesn't jive, doesn't give them the warm and fuzzies. They're saying, okay, now we want an audited P&L.
Yeah.
And a lot of self-employed borrowers I talk to, it's hard to get if their CPA does provide it, but they know, people know, business is down 50%. And if you really think about it from a practical standpoint, maybe it's not the time to get a loan if things have declined or you're unsure or whatnot. And so you can't really blame lenders for getting more strict around what's uncertainty. And as much as it pains me to say that, it's the truth. I am a champion for self-employed borrowers. I'm a S corp myself, and I agree when I talk to people and you talk about somebody who's self-employed and is going to find a way to make it, find a way to pay their mortgage no matter what, they're probably less risky than some of these W-2 borrowers that barely qualify with a W-2 income. And if they lost that job, they don't have some of the skills a self-employed borrower does to go find something new. But unfortunately, our heart and our thoughts about self-employed borrowers doesn't change the mortgage guidelines, which say we're going to be strict. We're going to make you prove that things are still going well. And so, when I've got a couple that I'm working with now that, were out of work, but then came back and we're working extra because they wanted, and it's going to be tough. And that's the honest truth of the matter.
Well, the reality is I'm an apartment owner, and it's kind of the same rules of the road for multifamily. Residential loans, pretty straightforward. Commercial apartment, multifamily, same deal. It used to be they want, last year's, tax returns, existing rent rolls. Now they want last month's rent collections, right?
Wow.
Right. They want T-1, not T-12.
Yeah.
So it's just a different game. Banks have the money. Banks make the rules. And right now the rules have changed for multifamily and they've changed for self-employed borrowers. And, it unfortunately is going to hurt some people and push their wants and their ability to borrow till next year. It's just the reality, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. And I've seen, as a broker, I've got access to 60 different lenders. They're all doing different, but, some are changing their self-employed guidelines and their, quote unquote overlays, where one recently announced you've got to have a 780 credit score or better.
Oh, geez.
As a self-employed borrower. And really, that's a nice way of saying, don't send us self-employed borrowers.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is.
You just cut out, 95% of the pool because, imagine somebody who's got a 767 is self-employed and, is doing great and they can't get a loan at that lender because they just said 780 and above.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. Well, Matt, this has been a great set of 3 conversations. I appreciate it. Look forward to next week.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Good talking to you, man.
Yep. Thanks.